Hello and welcome to today's lesson. We are going to continue our discussion on kind of introductory A and P, getting used to terms that we're going to use for the rest of the semester, the rest of the year, and kind of just things to be familiar with as we begin and continue our discussion to help you understand things later on. Today we're going to talk characteristics of life, things that are important for us to be considered alive, and we're going to talk about chemistry of the body and how the body functions internally. So this lesson, we're going to talk about the 5 necessities of life. 5 things you need to be alive. We need to be alive. We're going to talk about a term called homeostasis, what that means, how that works, how we kind of maintain it. This is going to be referenced throughout the year and how our body works to maintain this homeostasis. We have an organization within our body, how things are organized, so different levels of organization. And from simplest to complex, you'll be able to list them and kind of describe how things get bigger. We're going to use terms such as atoms, molecules, and compounds. You have to understand the differences between those 3 terms. And then we're going to talk about ionic bonds, covalent bonds, and hydrogen bonds today. So for starters, 5 things we need to survive. We need water. Our bodies are 66, 75% water. Water is really important to us. Along with water, we need food. That's where we get the building blocks to build up everything that we have, how our bodies are and work. We need oxygen. That keeps us alive. Heat is part of the homeostasis. And pressure is important as well for us to be alive. And this is why space becomes, one of the reasons space is rather difficult and astronauts must keep on their spacesuits. So, and when you travel airplane-wise, we have pressurized cabins because pressure is important to us. So for starters, homeostasis is a term that you need to be familiar with, be able to define. This is the ability of a body to maintain a stable internal environment. So homeostasis is maintaining a stable internal environment. A homeostatic mechanism is how your body regulates things such as temperature in the human body. So things that you do to maintain your temperature. For example, you shiver when it's cold, you sweat when it's hot. That is part of your homeostatic mechanism, something that maintains homeostasis for you. When we talk about the body, we talk about levels of organization. And everything kind of builds on itself. And so our simplest particles inside our body are called atoms. Atoms are elemental in form, so we can't get any smaller than an atom as far as an element goes. So we have hydrogen, carbon, nitrogen, and calcium are all elements or atoms found within the body that we use. If we combine multiple atoms together, we get these things called molecules. So water is a molecule, carbon dioxide is a molecule, hydrochloric acid is a molecule, oxygen is a molecule. These are molecules. If we combine multiple molecules together, we get substances called macromolecules, which are large molecules, macro meaning big. So proteins are a bunch of molecules thrown together. Lipids, same thing. Carbohydrates, yes, and nucleic acids are also in there. These macromolecules are used to form what we call organelles. You've learned about organelles in biology. We're going to talk about them again, kind of review them. But organelles examples, we have things like the nucleus, the mitochondria, ribosomes. You have lysosomes, endoplasmic reticulum. All of those qualify as organelles and are important in our body. If we get these different organelles to work together, they form what we call cells. A group of cells that do the same function, perform the same task are called tissues. Tissues make up organs, which is what we look at kind of large scale wise, so such as your stomach. Organs working together form organ systems. For example, your stomach, your small intestine, your large intestine, all work together to form your digestive system. And if you get all these systems to work cooperatively, we get what's called an organism, and that's where you come in. You are the end-all, be-all organism to all of this. So going back to the simplest, working our way up, we have atoms. Atoms are the smallest unit that has a chemical identity. So they're made up of protons, neutrons, electrons. These are atoms. They have an atomic number which is the same as protons, and they represent elements. So most common elements, most common atoms found in the body: are carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, sulfur, and phosphorus. Our body uses these for various functions. If we have two or more of these come together, we form what's called a molecule. So any two or more atoms chemically bonded make up a molecule. So two oxygens, two hydrogens, two nitrogens, two oxygens and a carbon, one oxygen and two hydrogens, those are all molecules. If I talk about a compound is a molecule with multiple different elements combined. So a molecule is two or more atoms, compounds are two or more elements. So examples would be water, carbon dioxide, NaCl, this is sodium chloride, it's table salt. Both are all atoms, molecules, and compounds make up what we call pure substances. A pure substance has a definite chemical composition. So one type of element or multiple elements chemically bonded together make a pure substance. All right, I want you to list the levels of organization in the body, beginning with cells. So going from cells and working your way to organism, you should be able to list those. What is the difference between a molecule and a compound? And then what is the smallest component of matter? So what is the simplest level of organization is another way to ask that last question. When you get those answers, we're going to continue on. So pause this, answer those, and then we'll carry on. When we talk about atoms, we talk about chemistry of the body. Atoms are neutral particles. They have the same number of protons and electrons, they have no charge. We talk about ions, these are atoms that have a charge. Because they gained or lost an electron, ions are atoms with a charge. Because we have atoms that get a charge, we can have both positive and negative charges. And so, just like everything else in life, opposites attract. So when these two come together, they form an ionic bond, a bond formed between ions. This is a strong bond, attraction between positive and negative ions. For example, sodium chloride. Sodium has a positive charge, chlorine has a negative charge. Positives and negatives come together, stuck in the middle. That's an ionic bond. We also have things called covalent bonds. Covalent bonds are bonds caused by sharing electrons, and this is where you get partial positive or negative charges, but things are shared. And so this is where two things agree. For example, water has two hydrogens, each sharing an electron with this oxygen, and so everybody is happy, but they're all sharing together. Is an example of a covalent bond. We also have these things called hydrogen bonds. So with water, water has a slight charge because oxygen wants to hog the electrons more than hydrogen. So hydrogen bonding is formed by partial bonds. These are very weak bonds. I'll talk more about them in class. We don't do a ton with them in this course. It's just important that you are familiar to the term and know that this is a weak bond as opposed to the strong bonds of ionic, they're formed by ionic and covalent means. So really quick, define homeostasis. I want to know what are the levels of organization beginning with atoms, how are ionic and covalent bonds different, and what are hydrogen bonds, what forms hydrogen bonds. All right, our last little segment, we're going to talk about acids and bases. And so acids are substances that increase your hydrogen ion concentration. They are considered proton donors. We talk pH scale, there was pH between 0 and 6.9. A base does the opposite, so it decreases the hydrogen ion concentration. So if acids donate protons, bases accept protons. They have a pH between 7.1 and 14. And when you mix an acid plus a base, you produce water and a salt along with that. But those are acids and bases. We also have inorganic substances. We'll talk about organic on the next slide, but inorganic substances that are prevalent in the body are things such as water, oxygen, carbon dioxide, and salts. So water, we breathe in and use, most of our body's made of, or we drink in, we ingest and use, most of our body's made of water. Oxygen we breathe in and use to perform cellular respiration. Carbon dioxide is a byproduct of that cellular respiration and metabolism. And then salts are made of things like sodium, chlorine, potassium, calcium, magnesium, phosphate, phosphite, carbonates, bicarbonates, and sulfate. These are important for metabolic processes. You don't have to know these by any means. Those are just examples. They work to maintain water concentrations. And they also function in things like pH and blood clotting and all of those. Maintaining all of those, make sure those are stable and at a level that we can function at. So what distinguishes an acid from a base? How are those different? What are the products of your acid-base reaction? And give me an example of an inorganic compound. Are your next set of review questions. And then here are your organic compounds. So organic compounds contain hydrogen, oxygen, and carbon covalently bonded together. So we have things like carbohydrates are one organic compound used to produce energy. Lipids are your fats. So we talk about lipids, we're talking about fats. And they are insoluble in water, they can't be dissolved, but they're important for our body. Proteins make our materials. They produce, the reason you look the way you do is because of proteins. They provide energy, they act as chemical messengers, they act as, or can be enzymes, and these are all made of amino acids. So enzymes speed up chemical reactions by decreasing the amount of energy required. But those are proteins. Your last one is a nucleic acid, and this is our genetic information storage. So our DNA, our RNA are all nucleic acids. We'll do a little bit with your adenine, thymine, cytosine, guanine, and uracil, but DNA and RNA are the places we find nucleic acids. All right, your last set of review questions. What do all organic compounds contain? What are the 4 organic compounds in the body? What are they used for? And describe the products of an acid-base reaction. So what comes out of an acid-base reaction? And then give me your levels of organization, starting with atoms and ending with organisms. Thank you for your time and attention. I look forward to working with you through the rest of this unit, and I will see you later.